Josh's recent column on Husker Max, the negative boys.
Mm-hmm.
Negative boys.
The negative boys. Thank you, Nick.
But you asked something towards the end of the column that I think is an interesting talking point that we can engage in here.
Okay.
And that is, is there going to be a point, because we have a lot of folks out there who are, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a point, or is there something you can identify, something that could happen in the season?
In the moment,
where we could say, I've seen it.
Yeah, a reader asked me after checking it out, is that possible? Or is it only because my last point, and I had 4 of them. Last week I had 4 positives. This week I had 4 negatives. 1, the defense is going to regress. 2, the running back depth beyond Emmett Johnson. 3, in-game management. And then 4, I need to see it before I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody asked me that question. Do you think there's a world where you could see something before the season finishes? Because, like, for example, they go 10-2.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen it. I can now believe it.
Mm-hmm.
But is it possible to identify in the moment? And I thought that was a really interesting question. Because last year, for example, they had a great opener against an overmatched program, but still, they haven't really dominated overmatched foes a whole lot the last handful of years, right?
No.
And they parlayed that then into a exemplary first half against Colorado. A really good performance. And, it didn't look very pretty in the second half. The Northern Iowa win was very forgettable. And then, of course, we know what happened after that. So, like, the early part of the season, there was very much a fool's gold to the performances.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought about it. Okay, if they go out and play a Cincinnati team that they're a touchdown favorite against, according to, the odds makers and K Ford and among others, if they went out and won by 20, 30, 40, 50, I don't think that wouldn't be enough. I'm not going to say I don't think it would be. It would not be enough for me. Certainly, there's nothing that they can do in the following 2 games that would be enough for me. If they start 4-0, if they get through the Michigan game still undefeated, that would tell me that they have turned a corner. Or at the very least, they are starting to turn the corner. But man, it would be hard for me as an observer who has not seen them start 4-0 since 2016, to not think that would be good enough, especially with one of the wins coming over Michigan and another one coming over a power school. But I guess I can hear the argument being formed in your head of, but this isn't the Michigan team of a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But what if they go into Norman and beat them? What if they feel, you're feeling pretty good?
I don't know if this schedule gives us the opportunity to really feel like a corner has been turned. I suppose, and a lot of this is conditional. Let's say that USC game,
night game, blackout,
2:30 game on CBS, has, a couple of, 7-1, 6-2 type teams. And Nebraska wins that game or maybe dominates that game. I suppose that would be one. But as one who has already picked Nebraska to beat Michigan, because a lot of it has to do with, I think Nebraska will be better this year, but I also think Michigan's going to take another step back.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, beating Michigan isn't going to be, I suppose they could do something in the first 4 games. Maybe they could just absolutely boat race all 4 teams.
That'd be pretty impressive.
And that would be something that would grab my attention. But short of that, I don't know if this schedule lends itself into something in the first half of the season that would tell me, oh yeah, this thing has turned a corner.
I don't want to keep saying,
and I would say that because maybe if Penn State were where the Michigan State game is and they would win that on the road, then yeah, absolutely. Because Penn State clearly
best team on the schedule.
Is the best team on the schedule.
Yeah.
That game just happens too late, because by that point,
because then it's just like, well, okay, the season's done now.
Yeah.
So it's essentially the same question. Let me ask you this, because I don't want to keep saying, Well, if they're 5-0, if they're 6-0, it's like, yeah, at a certain point, the numbers, the record would just be so good that you can't argue with it. But what do you think about what Jordan says in the YouTube? He says, if you do beat Michigan, for the love of God, do not lay an egg against Michigan State. Because that was one response I did get yesterday in terms of that question. What could they do? It's not even just beating Michigan, but it would be beating them and following it up with another win. Last year, they got 2 wins after their first loss. And then, I guess they didn't even really have the chance to follow up wins. No. They had one real chance, and that was beating Wisconsin and following it up with Iowa. And they, of course, lost in horrifying fashion. So what about that? If they started 4-0 and then moved to 5-0, like would that even be it? It does seem like the answer might have to be the end of the season, And
honestly, it depends. I mean, again, if they were to be very impressive in their first 6 games, then it would be hard not to say that some kind of a corner has been turned. But we also acknowledge that, the back half of the schedule, which starts at Minnesota and includes USC, UCLA, Penn State, and Iowa, is tougher than the front half.
Much.
And so, yeah, Nebraska could start 6-0, and people would be like, yeah, and then all of a sudden, oops.
Oh, they could start 5-1 again like they did last year.
Right. And then, it gets a little bit tougher. And so, I don't know. The answer to this question is it's kind of like a feel. What kind of a feel do you have?
Yeah, D'Lo says
how does it look?
It's odd to hear these expectations for a team has been so mid for so long. Wins over Cincy and Michigan would be the team's best start since when? Look, these aren't expectations. We are trying to find if they have turned a corner. Like the thing about the back half of the schedule, as you just point out, is last year it was the same thing. They're 5-1 after 6 games, and they were not playing well, but they were 5-1. They'd won 2 games in a row, and then they lost, and then they lost, and then they lost, and then they lost. And suddenly they were 5-5. And if you want to talk about turning a corner, I don't think 7-5 is turning a corner.
No.
Turning a corner is going to require a lot more.
Are we equating turning a corner with the Matt Rule year 3 bump? Are those kind of hand in hand in this conversation?
I mean, I think, what's turning a corner? Is it 8?
It probably is.
I'd say 8-4.
And I'm on record as saying I don't consider anything less than 9 wins to be the Matt Rule bump. I can't look at 8 and say it's a Matt Rule bump, especially when you look at the schedule. I think if we're going to call it comparing this bump to previous bumps, Baylor and Temple, I think it takes at least 9 wins to get there.
If you want the classic Matt Rule.
And that's not saying that if they win 8, it's a failure. I won't look at it as a true Matt Rule year 3 bump compared to his previous 2 stops if Nebraska gets to 8 wins.
Baptism by Fire says the record isn't the only thing. How we win will matter. And then, is this a real Mike Riley quote? You can't overlook in a victory what you wouldn't in a defeat. I mean, to go back to what you said a couple moments ago, you win every game in the first month by 20. Yeah, I would say. I mean, you said something to Mitch Sherman in our interview with him an hour ago that I found interesting, and that is the idea of players on the end of the bench getting into a football game, because last year it got to happen against UTEP. It happened, I believe, against Northern Iowa, and I think that was it.
It didn't happen anymore.
Right?
You have at least 2 opportunities here, and you hope that there's more. Hell, you hope you have an opportunity against Cincinnati to put in some subs.
That would be nice.
I'm not saying they will, but
that would be nice.
You're hoping for it. Yeah, getting extra guys into play, sure. Especially when you're not the one receiving the beat down. That would be a sign, certainly. But yeah, to me, I guess the answer to this question is it's just
when you see it.
You kind of know it when you see it.
Those answers suck.
Or you know it when you feel it.
Because Jason says if that's the answer, we'll have to wait until the end. That can be a tough way to watch the season, always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Isn't that how most people watch the Huskers?
They
anyway?
have. Yeah, Katie says they can't start 6-0 and flounder. Only way to say they've turned a corner is to finish strong, including a win against Iowa. I think that's a good answer. 6-0 would be great, but what if you finish? Okay, Mike Riley. They started 7-0. Did they turn a corner in 2016? It sure didn't feel like it by the time they finished 2-4. No. With a beat down to Ohio State, a beat down to Iowa, and a loss to Wisconsin and Tennessee thrown into.
likely, if the season goes out as expected, you're going to play all your best teams at the end. And then you're hoping that you're playing a postseason game of some sort, a bowl at least, which will be on kind of your level. Yeah, I mean, really, you can't really – they can't start 7-0 and finish 8-4 and feel like it's turned a corner, can you?
I imagine that if they start 7-0 and finish 1-4, it's going to be because, all the teams early stunk and all the teams late were good, which puts you almost in the same spot you have been.
I guess the answer to this question is ask me at the end of the season.
I like what D'Lo says. He talks about last year's Indiana. He said they maybe have played no one early on, but they looked different. Make it like that. I would say, look, I'm not going to predict this, but if Nebraska was boat racing almost every team like Indiana did last year, that would be a corner turned, which goes back to what we were just discussing a moment ago, where you're putting in a lot of the backups. Because they didn't do that. Nebraska didn't even do that in 2016.
I mean, in reality, there's only 2 opportunities to play backups. Akron and Houston Christian.
In what?
In the season.
What about Northwestern?
Maybe.
Wow, so you just think every game's going to be close then?
Well, I mean,
when
I think about putting in backups, I'm
Nebraska
thinking,
winning close games.
I guess
that would be a corner turn.
Maybe I'm using old-fashioned metrics, but usually, if you're putting in your backups late third quarter, that's when.
They probably won't have that. I was just saying like fourth quarter. They get a drive or two.
I'm saying if they get, I don't know if I would count it as much if they're getting one drive at the very end of a 21.
I see.
Lead.
Okay, I understand.
But not that experience doesn't matter. It does. But, and again, I may be measuring this on old-fashioned metrics where it was regularity that by the end of the third quarter, here come the third teamers.
Yeah, you got to do that every week.
Here come the fourth teamers.
Or overreaction is suddenly a conversation about the backups,
Exactly.
Like, oh man, did you see that running back get in there? Or hey, TJ Lateef looks promising. I'm excited about him in 2 years. Yeah, that's a good point.